Hi, my name is Shelby Hartman. I'm DoubleBlind's co-founder and editor-in-chief, and today we're talking the largest music festivals on Earth. But before we do, I just want to remind you to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a beat from us. Also, not sure if you know, but DoubleBlind has an incredible weekly newsletter, and it's free. We include all of our best stories from the week in there, including news on psychedelic politics, drug development, and beyond, as well as inspirational quotes and workshops and all kinds of fun stuff. So you can subscribe to that at the description in this video. Just as a side note, you may or may not know, but psychedelics are still illegal, which means that there's a lot of censorship of psychedelic content. You would hope that wouldn't be the case because, the First Amendment exists, but such it is, and we are subject to the algorithm gods, the algorithm monsters, as so to speak, on Google and Instagram and YouTube, and we've had videos and all kinds of stuff taken down. And so part of the reason why we've put so much love into creating an amazing newsletter and using that as sort of a gathering place for our community is because no one can ever take that list away from us. And so by subscribing there, it just ensures that, we will always be in touch, even if, God forbid, someday we can no longer post these videos. It might be obvious to some of you that psychedelics have been inextricably intertwined with the counterculture for generations. But more and more, we have been talking about music and art as sort of peripherally and inextricably wound up within psychedelics because, to us, psychedelics aren't just about the trip. They're about a way of life. They're about communing. They're about ritual. And festivals can be a really beautiful place to engage with all of those things. In the beginning, festivals offered an opportunity to celebrate religious holidays and practice sacred rituals. And today, electronic music festivals aren't quite so traditional, but they still have incredible communal power. Whether in a medieval town in Belgium or the Black Rock Desert Playa in Nevada, the largest electronic music festivals consist of entire ecosystems of music, camping, food, and culture, which emerges seemingly out of nowhere for just a few days or a week. I can tell you that for me, going to Burning Man for the first time when I was 21 years old in 2011 was one of the most transformative experiences of my life. Now, there's a lot to be said about Burning Man and how it's changed and how it's become commodified and how all the Silicon Valley techies are now biking around there alongside Instagram influencers. I roll. But, for me, what it showed me being at Burning Man and at other festivals is how cultural norms inform how we relate to ourselves and other people. It really depends on where you live in the world. I can tell you from my personal experience living in New Orleans versus living in LA versus living in New York, the culture is very different. But in a lot of big cities, there's a sense of people aren't super open all the time walking down the street, which makes sense, right? Because they're stressed and they're just trying to get to wherever they're trying to get to. And, people don't always feel safe in cities, but it creates this it creates this sense of closed-offedness, right? To just the ability to connect spontaneously with other people and to allow your day to unfold in a way that's sometimes organic and truly magical. And when you're in a festival environment, not to say that, everyone there should be trusted or that there's never harm that's caused at festivals, but there's really this culture of just sort of embracing the environment and embracing other people. And for me, I found that it allowed me to really step into a sense of radical self-expression and empowerment in a way that I never had before. I remember biking across Burning Man the first week that I had ever been there and just screaming into the desert and just feeling so unbelievably free. And I knew that everyone around me was going to celebrate that. And so I think that it's beautiful to have psychedelic experiences alone, but it's also beautiful to have psychedelic psychedelic experiences in an environment where, when you start to feel like you're really tapping into a deep well of creativity and you want to be more expressive, that you're around other people that are going to cheer you on while you do that. So what are some of the biggest music festivals in the world? EDM's biggest acts always show up for Ultra, an annual outdoor festival in Miami, a global hub for house and techno. It's well known for its massive crowds. A whopping 165,000 people showed up for the 2022 edition after it was canceled the 2 previous years due to COVID. It takes place in March when the weather is mild. There's an abundance of food, VIP packages, and 9 festival stages in Bayfront Park. It overlaps with Miami Music Week, and it's well worth showing up a couple days early to catch pool parties, pop-ups, and other events happening across the city. Obviously, Coachella's gotta be on the list. Again, like Burning Man, over the years, it's become a bit of a hot spot for eye-roll Instagram influencers, but the iconic festival set in the California desert is one of the most well-known on our list, and that's for a reason. It's not just about electronic music, although that is a huge part of it. The Sahara tent, along with other stages spread across the beautifully kept Empire Polo Fields, is where DJs and musicians play to packed crowds. If you're going to Coachella for the music first and foremost, consider going to the second weekend, which is typical for being more focused on dancing. EDC Las Vegas. The Electric Daisy Carnival is America's original playground for overstimulated phantasmagoria, where ravers from across the US descend on Vegas for a weekend. Frankly, you could not pay me to go. But a lot of people really love it, and the festival stages are divided by genre, giving plenty to offer whether you're into house, techno, jungle, bass music, or anything else. Fire breathers, carnival rides, and neon LED everything make EDC into a full sensory experience. And this year's theme centered around circles of time, circles of trust, and circles of community, as the organizers put it. The Balkan Republic of Croatia is a well-known locale for dance music gatherings and other music festivals thanks to its beautiful summer weather and scenery along the Adriatic coast. Love International goes down at The Garden, a beachside resort in a secluded bay near a fishing village, and the week-long festival offers up a similarly dreamy lineup of underground dance artists. Love International is reportedly a one-of-a-kind type of gathering, ideal for spending late nights dancing and making new friends under the stars. As the most beloved EDM festival in Europe, Tomorrowland's reputation is so staggering that the company has spawned multiple spin-off festivals, a record label, and even a fantasy novel. But the original Tomorrowland, held in the town of Boom, remains the big event. The lineup usually has so many artists that you need a magnifying glass to read them off the poster, and the Dreamville isn't so much a campsite for attendees as it is a mini city. Tomorrowland celebrates its 20th anniversary this year, and as usual, this year's theme is dubbed Silvira, a, quote, world of lush nature with callbacks to previous editions. World building is an element in all major EDM festivals, but this one held in Transylvania is the only one in which festival goers were so committed to the Bram Stoker vibes that they donated their blood in exchange for day passes. I wouldn't do that. Untold has been happening since 2015, and while it doesn't have as big of a budget as some of the better-known festivals, it does give festival goers more bang for their buck, considering that the price for a 4-day pass is lower while still offering access to a stacked lineup of EDM headliners. It has a charming location, manageable crowds, and bargain food options, which make Untold an ideal destination for ravers looking to go off the beaten path. Veterans of this long-running UK festival either love or hate it, with the down-to-earth camping and the potential for mud and rain requiring a certain degree of fortitude. It's worth investing in the gold ticket for the best camping amenities. It's also smart to arrive early to get the best pick of the sites for your tent, but you can just as easily settle for a day pass and stay in a nearby hotel. The lineup includes a stacked slate of A-list DJs, producers, and plenty of emerging talents and up-and-comers, and this year's festival offers a break from the elements with a 30,000 capacity indoor main stage. Well, the annual gathering, as mentioned, in the temporary Black Rock City isn't just a week-long getaway for tech billionaires. The tens of thousands of people who bring their costumes, bicycles, and camping gear to the playa each year also include numerous DJs, electronic artists, and dance music lovers. The center camp stages are where a lot of the musical action goes down, but you're more likely to see DJs, both major and underground, performing as part of the music programming of major campsites like Playground, Camp Question Mark, and the Fluffy Cloud. Whatever the case, bring lots of water and prepare to revel in the principles of communal effort, radical self-expression, and more. Generally speaking, I just want to say that at DoubleBlind, we often say we try not to create a hierarchy of set and setting. Well, what does that mean? If you've been watching these videos for a while or reading articles on our website, then you probably are familiar with the term set and setting, which is the mindset that you're in when you have a psychedelic experience and the environment that you're in when you have a psychedelic experience. And both of these things can have a profound effect on how the trip unfolds. We're in this moment where psychedelics are becoming legitimized, right, as medicines within a sort of Western pharmaceutical framework, which is sort of legitimizing a very particular model, which is MDMA, psilocybin, with a therapist, on a couch, and a blindfold, etc., etc. And we're not going to tell people that that is the only legitimate way to do a psychedelic, because we know that a lot of people have deeply transformative experiences in community, at parties, at festivals. Specifically, the queer community has, for generations, really had profound experiences sort of coming into themselves and finding chosen family on the dance floor. Going back to, places like the Stark Club in Dallas, Texas, which was sort of considered like the birth of raving culture in a lot of ways, and MDMA was popularized there. And so that being said, it's just sort of important, I think, really important before you take a psychedelic in an environment like a festival where there's like tens of thousands of people and you're dancing, to ask yourself what your intention is, right? And to make sure that you have everything in place such that if it doesn't unfold exactly how you anticipated, you're going to be supported. So you want to be, careful. One of the biggest things that happens to folks is that they get lost from their friends, basically. And then they find that they're like alone in a sea of people. So that's something that you want to be really careful about. And a lot of times there isn't cell phone service or good Wi-Fi at big festivals. And so establishing ahead of time, like, if we lose each other, where are we going to meet? Like, this is our meeting point, right? Making sure that someone doesn't wander off alone. Like, if someone says they want to go to the bathroom, or if you want to go to the bathroom because you just want like a minute alone to yourself, probably best to take a buddy, because I can't tell you how many stories I've heard of someone's overwhelmed at a festival and they just want to take a moment to themselves and they're like, I'm just going to go to the bathroom and get a moment of silence. Well, next thing they know, they're like lock themselves accidentally in a porta potty, which sounds funny and maybe is funny later, but is not so funny when it's happening. The point being that taking a psychedelic in a festival environment can be so beautiful. Sometimes, it could be more beautiful than doing a psychedelic on your own or even in nature. I mean, we hear experiences of people feeling just like so deeply connected to the energy that's surrounding them. Michelle Luke, a rave culture journalist that writes for DoubleBlind, talks about, when everyone on the dance floor is in sync, it almost feels like the dance floor becomes like a unified organism, and everyone that is dancing is sort of like moving and breathing and jumping and laughing together. And it can really intensify this feeling of unity that people often have when they're on a psychedelic, right? That, when people are on a psychedelic, they often have mystical experiences that make them feel connected to other people, to the earth, to everything, basically. And being in an environment, where you're surrounded by other folks who are kind of on that same wavelength can intensify that feeling in a really beautiful way. At the same time, it's just worth considering what is the most optimal setting for you. a lot of people love to go to electronic music festivals that are in a lot of ways, like the DJ sets and everything are actually curated for folks who are like on MDMA and other psychedelics. But there also there's a lot of drinking, there's a lot of mixing different kinds of substances. Whereas there are a lot of festivals that are smaller, or where you are more inclined to encounter people that are only taking substances in a mindful way. So like Rainbow Gathering, Desert Days is a huge festival, but it has more of like, I would say, a community of care. Like they've really prioritized, like MAPS has a booth there. They partner with our friends at Nest, which is like a harm reduction kind of organization. They set up like a beautiful tent there with pillows, and they have like trip sitters and stuff like that. So if you like, need support when you're at the festival, you can go there. It's just to say, not saying don't go to a large electronic music festival with 50,000 people and do a psychedelic if that's what you really want to do, but there's so many different types of festivals where you can have this experience, and maybe something smaller might be a nice place for you to consider starting. Lastly, at the risk of stating the obvious, I also want to say be really careful about taking psychedelics from someone or drugs from someone at a festival. Obviously, there has been a rise in fentanyl, that's, ketamine and MDMA and other synthetic substances, which, fentanyl can potentially be fatal. But even with substances like mushrooms, for example, like mushroom gummies, mushroom chocolates, things like that, like for many years, people have assumed that those things can't be adulterated. And we just did an investigation that we're publishing in the print magazine about how even a lot of, sort of underground gray market psilocybin products are actually being made with like THC isolates and 4-ACO-DMT, which is like a synthetic, and all different kinds of things. And so be careful about who you take your drugs from. And also a lot of festivals these days, more and more of them, have places where you can go get your drugs tested. So that's also something worth, inquiring about if you're at a festival and wondering, what the heck is this thing someone gave me? Have you been to any of these festivals? Did we miss any amazing festivals that we should know about? We would love to hear more about your experience in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy videos like this, which come out every Wednesday. We also have tons of amazing articles on our website for free at doubleblindmag.com. Until next time.